You're not a bad mom. You might just be the one willing to disrupt generational wounds. I know that's what happened to me. Kind of talk about this in Letters of Legacy. We we have this wound we get from childhood, parenting, our mothers. But I'm not going to go there. I don't want to talk about mother wounds because here's the thing. When you go down those paths, a lot of times I see blaming. And what I've come to realize is that our mothers weren't healed. As mothers aren't healed, and we're parenting from those what I call conditions, the conditioning that this is how it's supposed to be. I know for me, I'm this was my realization time here. And this is kind of, I talk about like when you start dealing and diving into what you consider mother wounds, your own, you start realizing sometimes how much you have done that to others. But I'm like, that could like shut us down, but I don't want us to shut down. As mothers, the cool thing is we have this opportunity to heal ourselves. And by doing that, we heal multiple generations going down. I've worked with a lot of mothers. That's primarily where I've coached as moms. And I love it when a mom who I'm working with decides to like change the way they respond to something and step into their own confidence, step into their own worthiness, step into all that they are meant to be. And then they come back to me later and say, I saw this in my daughter. My 16-year-old started doing this different than she was before that, before I worked with you. And I'm like, that's the point. That's how we heal. That's how we go back and like, this isn't blaming. This is understanding that as a mother, I did things incorrect. My mom did things incorrect. Not necessarily out of meanness always, but out of not knowing. Let me lock this in on something a little bit example wise, because sometimes you're like, what is she talking about? And I talk about this again in the book, and it's one of the lies that Holly has mentioned a lot of us women walk around with is that we're too much. We're too emotional. We cry too much. We are over the top. We talk too loud. Whatever it is that we've been told and we start to believe, that's when we can go, that's not true. Okay. And the thing about it, let me again, I was told so many times as a teenager, stop crying. You're just being emotional because of blah, blah, blah. Stop crying. And I learned to stop crying. I knew that if I went and started crying, it was just going to escalate whatever the situation was. So I learned to stop crying. And what that told me was when I didn't cry, when I wasn't emotional, when I wasn't in touch with my own feelings, I got along in society. Society did not enjoy the fact that I wanted to cry. Society did not respect the fact that I make decisions through my emotions. So okay, in order to fit in order to be successful, I need to tamp down these things in myself. And I went through life like that. I became a mother of a female who has emotions and cries. What did I say to her? Oh my gosh, I would tell her, stop being emotional, stop crying. Yes, I've had to go back and like, oh no, 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 cry, 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 please cry. Because I was conditioned that to be a good human, a good female in this world, I needed to tamp down those emotions. I didn't want my daughter to also have to go through hearing that and like all that. So I parented from that conditioning. And here's the and she and I have a very good relationship. So as I'm healing, as I've gone through my journey, as I'm saying, you're not too much, I go back and enable her. Now, that's on her to do her own healing. I can't take that. But what I can say to all the moms out there who lay in bed, I'm like, because I did this for years. Oh my gosh, I'm not being a good enough mom. I'm being too much of a mom. I'm being, like what is the balance in motherhood? I have no idea. Okay. If you know, let me know. Write it in the comments. I would love to know what the balance in motherhood is. But what I always felt like I was not doing it right until I realized I was doing it through a generational wound. My mom had been hurt. Same thing. She said it to me. I said it to my child. And so the empowering part of this is it doesn't have to be that way. All we have to do is start identifying the conditions, the wounds, the thinking that's not supportive of where we want to be. It's not supportive of being in your power as a amazing individual, how you were born to be. Because all of those wounds create, the word I use is conditioning. Okay, I can't do this. I got to do this instead. I can't do that. I got to do this instead. And when we start taking away those layers of conditioning and go, you know what? This is what my soul wants to do. I want to be loud. I want to be out there owning my power. Then I become who I want to be. I am. And then this is the amazing part for moms, okay? This is why you're not a bad mom. You just haven't come into your own yet. But when you start doing that, if you start saying, no, I'm not going to be treated that way. No, I'm not going to be stuck in people pleasing. No, I'm not going to question my every decision. And no, I am going to trust me. And I'm not going to look for outside validation. By just doing that and modeling that and showing that, you start helping your own family, your own kids. You give them the permission to do the things that you are now taking on and accepting as this was my power. This is who I am. So I say this, and I mean this. You're not a bad mom. You may be parenting in a way that you don't really like or don't want or the kids don't like. That's okay. Remember and give yourself the grace that you're parenting the way that you've been taught works in society. And the question becomes, is it working for you? Is this how I want to feel? Is this in touch with my own soul? And the moment you start saying, no, that probably isn't in touch with my own soul, that's not in touch with how worthy I am of being here and being in this life, when you start connecting to that, you're automatically giving your children the permission to do it themselves. I'd love to hear what your thoughts. Okay, let me know. What was something that and especially if your kids are a little bit older and you're like, you know what? I've had to go back to both my children and say, I was not emotionally available to you like I should have been or wanted to be. No excuse. No, this is why. Just an apology. And I give you permission to acknowledge that in me and to work on changing that. What is something you've done? Let me know.